All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. We'll probably have people trickling in as we start going through this, but tonight I'm going to go through one of the properties that we just actually put into the portfolio. This was a little bit of a unique deal in the fact
No.
we um, we don't ordinarily buy cash deals. We've connected with I guess they're more of a private money lender than they are a hard money lender. But we are building a relationship with them that is going to probably be beneficial for all the way around. They want to do a couple of deals with us before they start 100% financing on the entire purchase price, any entry costs, plus construction or rehab. So once we do a couple of deals with them, we'll move forward with that. But that could be a game changer for acquiring cash properties. There's a sub two. I love creative finance, but there are a lot of good cash deals out there right now, and that's kind of where it's drawing our eye. But I'll start going through this one. So this was a little bit unique. This came from another investor that we are friendly with, and the individual was looking to get out of the Cleveland market. We have been heavily looking in the Cleveland market and trying to buy in the Cleveland market. It's a phenomenally strong market. You can cash flow properties there. The property prices for acquisitions are relatively low. So it really is pretty much a hot spot for investing. But he had come to us. He was looking to get out of the Cleveland market, and he had purchased this property about a year, I think it was about a year, a little bit over a year and a half prior to us just closing. And he decided that he had done probably 70% of the rehab on the property, and then just decided that he was no longer interested in the area, looking to move out, and offered us a pretty good sweetheart deal of a acquisition price on this. So as you can see, this was the condition of this house when this other investor had originally purchased it. So this area of Cleveland it's East Cleveland. It's a little bit touch and go. So you have some decent neighborhoods, and then you have some really bad neighborhoods. This particular property is like right on the cusp of unfortunately, we're an area that's being gentrified. Not that I like that, but that's just the reality of it. And so it's right on the edge of being close to some really nice neighborhoods that are out into the east side of Cleveland. But it's also, probably 4 or 5 blocks away from an area that is not very desirable. But as you can see from some of the pictures, this was it was in decent shape. I mean, some of the areas of the property were in tougher shape than others, but the rehab had already started. So let me back that up for a second. So when their house was originally purchased, it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. So there's 2 units that are 2-bedroom, 1 bath. And part of the rehab that had already been started is a conversion of this into a value add for adding a bedroom into each side in one of the rooms, making it a bedroom. So it's making it a 3-1. So that was one of the most attractive things to us about it, is that some of the value add had already been started with it. And as you can see, this is classified as a actual legal bedroom. So we're currently we go up and mute.
Where's the chips? Get there.
All right, sorry about that, guys. So as I was saying, the value add was already starting with it. So a lot of the flooring, a lot of that stuff had already been done. It had required, I guess, probably about 25% to carry it completely to fruition. But that main focal point is that it's It's as a 2-1 currently right now. And let me see if I can mute that person here.
No, I didn't. I like you pushed her on track. She was right straight and you killed her. No, I didn't. Look at the picture.
I think I got him. All right. So currently, right now, it is classified as a 4-2. So it's a 2-1 on each side. That is currently right now going through with the county to get this approved as a 3-1 on each side. So it'd be a 6-2. That's a very important point as part of this deal. There is an additional room in here that is technically, I get what used to be attic space, that we are more than likely going to get approved for a 4-1 on one side, and then it'll be a 3-1 on the other. But that's not guaranteed. So the guarantee is that this will be a 6-2, with, like I said, having 3 bedrooms, 1 bath on each side of the property. So as you can see, that this had already been done. The bulk of that work had already been done. They had really done a nice job updating this and starting the rehab with it. And we were just basically coming in at the final moment and swooping in and finishing it out, and getting it market ready. And when we originally had looked at this deal, it was a $76,000 purchase price. We agreed to pay the agent's commission on that because it unfortunately had just actually gotten listed when we started talking about it, but a very small amount to have to absorb. So we were coming in with a private hard money or a private money lender for first position. The particular lender that we are, I guess, feeling out, and they're feeling out us. They have a flat rate private money, which is sometimes it's beneficial when you have a flat rate like that. So EMD was $1,500, and like I was talking about before, the currently was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. It was a 2x2 one. It's 2,824 square feet. So each apartment is pretty spacious. There's about 1,400 square feet, give or take, in each one. And like I said, the rehab was about 70 to 75% already done. So what we're coming in with this is we have secured that private money loan, and we'll walk through that. I'll show you how I analyze the deal with the private money that was coming in. I'll also go through a little bit more in depth this week with comping and looking at that, like the rent rates and that sort of nature that is going to be beneficial for you guys to see. So coming into this is what the plan is that we're going to do a cash out, basically a burst strategy, a cash out DSCR refi after about 3 months. And we're going to get it reclassed to guaranteed a 6-bed, 2-bath. But it is a possibility, like I was talking about before, that it could be a 4-1 and a 3-1, which would even increase the value add for this. And we have about 25 to 30% of the rehab remaining in that right now. So let's walk through and go through some of the underwriting on this. This actually broke my calculator because it really didn't contemplate something like this with a private hard money initial loan. So that's why I'm going back and taking a look at and redoing parts of the calculator so that it'll work. But this is basically what I used from my calculator that I had stripped apart to go through with the deal parameters on this one. So as you can see, we have a purchase price of $76,000. And the benefit of this hard money lender, or this private money lender, is that there are no payments due until that flat rate is at the end of the term. And so we're going with a very reasonable, it's a 10% flat rate for 3 months or less. And the rehab is, as we walk through that, is only going to take about 4 weeks. They've already started doing the work in it. We had a great contractor that kind of came with the property, and he's turned out to be a huge asset. He's very knowledgeable on the on the area, and he's actually one of our boots on the ground now for Cleveland because, as I said, we're buying quite heavily in there. But so yeah, it's a flat rate of 10% for a 3-month hold, and then there's incremental percentage increases all the way up to a 7-month hold. And nothing is due, so I have no holding costs for the property while the construction is going and we're trying to get that DSCR loan and we're putting that into play. I have no payments, which is atypical of a normal hard money loan, which is where you're paying interest only, but you're still making a payment every single month. So the rates are, I mean, they're really kind of in a better position than a traditional hard money lender, in my opinion, is because you're paying that, and you typically on a hard money loan that's a traditional one, you have about a 12-month length of runway there. But you're paying anywhere from 11 to 13% right now for a hard money loan, and you're paying that interest only every single month, so you have carry costs there. So it's in my opinion, this was a better option. This is a better win-win for everybody. But as you can see, coming through with the cash deal base costs, the property taxes are going to be about $82 a month. The insurance is about $133 a month, and we don't have any of those carry costs at this point, and I'll get to that in a moment, where sometimes you can get landlord insurance, or you can get investor insurance for the property and pay it, basically pay the year premium. And they offer a substantial discount on that. And this is the case that we had here. We had it was about $250 to $300 cheaper to pay it for the year. So I just went ahead and paid that, and that's going to factor into our analysis down the road, because that's going to have a monthly expense. But the monthly baseline expenses for this, property, barring the fact that I had paid those that insurance already up front, is about $214 a month. So with this loan, we were looking at, they want to build a relationship with us, and typically with hard money and even DSCR loans, is they want to see some experience with them prior to really financing something 100%. Even hard money lenders typically won't go up to 100% even if you're a master flipper. So the principal amount that we were borrowing was 87% of purchase price. So we did come in with a little bit of cash, but that is going to be, that leg room will be made up once we go to the DSCR loan. So they will finance 100% of the rehab. The principal amount that we are going to end up borrowing with coming in with some of our cash is about $66,000. So the total is going to be $90,000. I have it in there as a 3-month because I definitely think we can do that. And once we get to the DSCR section, I'll elaborate on that a little bit further. But I think we can easily do this in 3 months. This should be done by January 20th. We should have this completely wrapped up for all of the work that needs to be done in it. And so it gives us at least a 2-month buffer to begin the refinance process. And I'll get into that and have a couple of commentaries on that coming in once we get to that section. So the down payment, we're in there for almost about $14,000. We had some closing costs. We had a transaction coordinator. We, like I said, I put that in there for the $1,592. That was the insurance that we had paid up front. There's an application fee and a background if you have no experience with them. And then the LLC registration is, we didn't physically have a property in the Cleveland area at this time. So we had to get our LLC registered as a recognized foreign entity. And there are fees with that. So I put that in there just so that everybody has eyes wide open of all the expenses that go into acquiring a property in this manner. This would have happened either way. That title would have required that, so that they can transfer title, that they have to be a recognized entity in that state. So that is a often overlooked expense for buyers, is making sure that the LLC is recognized in that state. Coming in here before we go to the ARV values, the ARV on this for a 6.2 is about $153,000. So we have a significant value add here, and that was the most attractive part of this deal, is that the ARV on this was considerably higher, so that we would be able to get into this property for almost virtually nothing out of our own pocket. Once we got to that DSCR refinance. The fair market value as is, as a 4.2, was around 87,000. We had a bid that was already in hand, that we had confirmed with the contractor, plus and minus a couple of things that we had done as buyers that we wanted to have done as buyers, and it was about $24,000 for the remaining part of the work. So my all-in costs to ARV is about 15%, which is incredibly low. This particular market is at about an 80% ARV a target. Cleveland is a pretty hot market. It's still a seller's market, and coming in with this as a 3.2 on each side is a 6.2. I'm sorry, a 3.1 on each side is 6.2 total. That's where my MAO had come in. That we were actually able to go up to a $98,000 ceiling on that, where that property would be worth it with the value add. So looking at rent rates, we'll pause there and we'll talk about that for a second. So this is a little bit of a double-edged sword. I'm comfortable because I'm more conservative we'd get about $1,100 per unit. I think we can get that all day long, and I'll take you through that in a second. But $1,100 was where I had ballparked it, and I actually had that confirmed with both rent range and several property managers. Several property managers actually said with taking Section 8, we could get considerably more. But I want to keep that open for at least the first year we're in it. I want to keep that open so that I'm not unrealistically dependent on Section 8 and people with vouchers. So I put that at the conservative numbers, and I think that we can. In reality, we probably can get a little bit more than this, where the actual numbers start coming through. But we'll talk about that in a second. So as we go through, you know that we take 6 points of reference when we're initially assessing it to figure out what the rent rates are. And as you can see on the right-hand side, all of these are great resources, but none of them are accurate enough that I would place my stake on it. So we do the best we can with ballparking what the rent rates would be, and I'll just pull up the rental rates for the property itself. So this is actually ballparking it off of a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, which is a problem with Zillow, is part of their algorithm. But what I put in there, when you see, I say over here, I see Zillow analyze. So I'm going in there after I get all of my numbers. I'm going back in there, and I'm actually taking a deep dive to see what is on the market comparatively and how long it's been on the market, so that I can kind of gauge pre-handedly what people are willing to pay and what people are getting for similar properties. So if we start looking at this here, the ones that are grayed out have been rented or taken off of the market because they're no longer active on any listings. But with that being said, you kind of have to reference and say, all right, if this went off market for $1,100 and it was last seen on December 13th, you can reasonably assume that this has been rented out. Yeah, there was always an opportunity that they took it off the market completely. But yeah, go in there.
You want to go outside and all the kids want to go outside too, baby.
Okay. Oops. Sorry about that, guys. So this was last seen on December 13th. So we can reasonably presume that this was rented out for $1,100. Yes, there might have been negotiation. There's just no reference or repository for like an MLS or property records where you can see the sales price. There's just nothing out there like that for rent rates. So you reasonably make that presumption that this was rented for $1,100. So as you're seeing in here, you're seeing some of these properties that are 1,300, 1,200, 1,000. This is where I was talking about this. Once you start going across 116th Street, it starts to get a little bit dicey over here. So that's probably appropriately priced for that area at $1,000 for a 3-1. Plus, we don't really know what the condition of this is because there's no pictures on here of the inside of the property. It could be a complete disaster for all I know. But knowing this area, it's probably appropriately priced. Let's see. Yeah. So this is the next thing that I'm looking at is I'm looking at Zillow days on market or days on Zillow, and I'm looking at the number of contacts and I'm looking at the number of applicants if it is on there. So ideally, you want a 1-to-1 ratio. If you have a 1-to-1 ratio, that is pretty much well priced for the market, and you're gonna be able to get that rent. This is very, very close. I mean, it's got to be what 1 point something, 1.2. So this is very, very close to a 1-to-1 ratio. So this was well priced. It's probably priced a little bit under, to be honest with you, if you have three applicants for it, because the contacts are different than the applicants. So if they have applied right on Zillow, that is where that number is coming from, and you don't always see that on a property. So you'll see the number of contacts that have been made, but you won't see the number of applicants. So this already has 3 applicants on it, and that's it's only been on the market for 6 days. They've already had 5 contacts and 3 applicants. Those contacts could be included in those applicants, or it could not be. So this might actually be a little bit under if they have 8 total individuals that have reached out about this property. So this is a decent comp. It's a little bit smaller in square footage per unit, and so that's why I'm comfortable with that $1,100 number as kind of our fail safe. That's telling me that this is well priced at $1,000. It's a little bit smaller. It's a 3-1, and it's a little bit less desirable of an area. So that is what I'm going through is just an initial analysis for the rent rates. And so let's look at a couple of the other ones that were in here for 1,200. So this is the same deal. This is in there for 1,250. It was a nice rehab, but that 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment is not 2,200 square feet. So there's multiple units in there. There's either 2 or 3. So it's a duplex. So this is in there for 1,250. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. I'm presuming that they're probably about the same size. It doesn't say what the actual square footage of each unit. But it's a little bit. It's got 1 short bedroom, and they're probably asking a little bit too much for it, to be honest with you. 1,250. It's been on for 21 days. There's been only 8 contacts. So that's telling me that they're not, they're a little bit over market. They're overpriced on this. So going in here, that's kind of my methodology on on what I'm looking at as the rent rates when I'm using Zillow and Zillow Verified. So I'll go through and double check the numbers over here of what we have come out with as our average from all of these resources. And then I will put it in there for what I'm getting a sense of from the market with the contacts to days on Zillow and taking a look at those and comparing the two of them. Once we move into where we're going to be purchasing a property and we put this under contract, or just before we put it under contract, I will always do 2 things. I will always go to rent range, and I will always go to contact several property management companies and ask them for a CMA. So CMA is a comparable market analysis, and they will typically use rent range. That is what most property management companies use, is they use rent range. It's phenomenal. It's probably the bellwether in the industry. The only thing is it costs money. So the amount of properties that we underwrite every single week, we would have an insane expense. So I think it's like 1 to 10 properties. It's about $14 or $15, and then from 10 to 20 properties, it like drops to like $11 or $12 or something like that. So there's ranges, but there's expense with it, right? It's not a free resource. So with doing that for every single property, would be insane. It'd be a waste of capital. But a lot of times you can get the property management company, when they do the CMA, to send you the rent range report, because that is what they utilize. That's a really good tip of how to get a quote unquote free report. In this particular case, I had two different property management companies that sent me the rent range report and for their CMA. So a lot of times they'll do that to win your business. I have never, ever had a property management company tell me no. When I call them up and to say, hey, I'm Jim. I'm going to be purchasing a property that we're going to be putting into the portfolio in XYZ area. I'd love to see if we could do business together, and I could utilize you as my property management company because I'm out of state. Would you be able to give me a CMA and send me what your market analysis of what I could get for rent, so I can match it up against what I've already analyzed. Most of 99.9% of the time, they're going to say yes, and they'll send you over that. And typically it'll include a rent range report. But that is paramount to do that prior to going under contract, to make sure that your rent analysis is correct on a long-term rental. I can't stress that enough, of how important that is, to make sure that your rent rates are reasonable. A lot of times, sorry guys, I got a little bit of a cold. A lot of times if you're an end buyer, or if you're a lender, the wholesaler that has it, or the individual that has locked up the deal, will typically just go into like Zillow rental manager, find the ranges, and use the top number, and that's completely incorrect. That is a very good way of seeing an overvalued rental estimate, and you have to do your due diligence on that, without a doubt. So rent range, if it was a subscription, or if it was if you got more than just one report per purchase, I probably would get that because it's the most accurate. But unfortunately, it's anywhere from $10 to $14 a property per report. So it gets pretty pricey very quickly. I'm sure that your property management companies probably have some sort of a volume discount and a corporate account, but us as individuals, we unfortunately don't have that. But that's a really good tip of how to get a free rent range report, is to contact property management companies in the area. So after discussing with the property management company, most of them were, I think the one that we're going to align with and we're going to do business with, they had it about $1,250, and that was taking into account Section 8 and having it approved for Section 8 and being able to take those vouchers. So we had a discussion about that. I wasn't overtly concerned with locking myself into a Section 8. So I really went with the more conservative route and just said, hey, if we have someone who's self-paying, what do you think is going to be the rent estimates? And he said, yeah, so it'd probably be anywhere from $1085 to $1,100 a month for a self-pay, and probably a little bit more if you took Section 8 vouchers. So I underwrote it more conservatively. That's just my style. That's what I do for the team, is to make sure that we're block and tackling, and we're not exposing ourselves to more risk than we need to be. But for both units, we're looking at about $2,100 of gross projected income every single month. As far as the expenses on this, Remember, we don't have any payment because this particular private money lender, we don't have any payment until that cost of funding is due at refinance or payout if you had, self-funded it. But the reason I didn't include that on the expenses for this is because the property taxes have already been paid. We did that through closing. And the insurance, like I said, I got a discount for paying it up front. So I removed that out there and I just paid the expense up front. Water and sewer and trash or landlord responsibilities in this area. That varies from different areas to different areas of what that's going to entail. I see a lot of properties where it's typical that even water and sewer and trash are on the tenant. Sometimes, most of the time, on a long-term rental, that is on the when you're talking duplexes in Cleveland, for certain, it's typically on the landlord. The electricity and gas, I budgeted that for about $100 a month between the two of them. And just because I'm going to have that carrying cost for the next 3 months, providing we don't refinance earlier, that I'm going to have that expense until it's rent ready and I get tenants in there. So worst case scenario, it's going to be 3 months. I think that we can probably get tenants in there in about 2, but I just put it in there as factoring that in. So while those guys are in there doing their work and they are doing construction, they obviously need to have the lights on. They need to have the house heated in order to put the flooring down, because it is rather cold there right now. So I did factor in for those expenses. So we're going to have about $130 a month carrying per month, for them to use any water that they need to use while they're doing their construction, and in both the electric and gas. So I'm factoring that in. So all in costs for this first leg of this is I'm looking at a down payment of about $14,000. I'm looking at closing costs of about $3,420. That is inclusive of paying that agent's fee. We have an acquisition fee. I have to pay my team for that was underwriting it and for all the project management that goes into this. The insurance that I paid in full that I've talked about, we had a TC on this, and then my holding costs for all of my operating expenses up here, which is about $390. So we're going to be about $23,000 into this out of pocket for this initial deal. So not too bad. I mean, it's a pretty low priced house, but $23,000 out of pocket is not horrible. And as you can see, when I go to the next screen on this, is when I go for the DSCR refinance, I'm going to recoup almost all of that cost. So as you can see, this is starting to go into where I'm looking at it for the DSCR end of it factored in. So all of these costs are the same, except for now we have with this is going to be our principal and interest for our refinance. So when we have the DSCR loan in place, we have an ARV of about $153,000. And most DSCR lenders, it really is a pretty wide gamut. And I have really good DSCR lenders that we're going to be able to utilize. Is some of them mandate if you don't have any track record or history, 75% loan to value. Some of them will go to 80%. Some of them will actually even go to 85%. It's just going to you're going to end up paying more interest on it. But the DSCR lender that I have right now, they're at about 8 right now. I'm hoping that this is going to come down over the next couple of months, and it's going to be in the 7s. But I figured the worst case scenario is that we're at about 8% right now for a DSCR loan, and that's an 80% loan to value. So the loan will be for about $123,000. There will be closing costs with that. So when you go to refinance it, there will be, there'll be closing costs with it for the Alta policy, things of that nature, normal closing costs. There'll be lender fee costs that are put in there, the origination fees, things of that nature. So, we're looking at probably about $4,000, $4,500 of fees that are going to go with that refinance that we need to factor in there. We need to pay that initial private money lender off, which is going to be $99,000. So our all-in cash, as you can remember, it was about $24,000. The DSCR ratio on this was 1.4. And I take from that, there's a little bit of a kind of a split camp on this as to figuring out your DSCR ratio. So if anybody doesn't know what that is, that's your debt coverage service ratio. So that is basically saying, is this pulling in enough income to cover the debt that is on this property? So some DSCR lenders will base that off of your net operating income. Some of them will base it off of just principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and association. So you have a PITA. That is the homeowners association or an HOA if they have one. This particular property does not. So I am always more conservative, as you can get the gist of, as I use my net operating income. So that's taking into account vacancy, all of my costs here that are your capex, your vacancy, my property management, etc. Some DSR lenders don't do that. They just go off of the PITA. Some of them go to the net operating income. It really depends on the lenders and what their standards are. But I always go on the conservative number. So if I did not go the conservative route, this has about a 1.8 to 1.9 DSCR ratio. But using my net operating income, it's at about 1.4, which is great. You're looking at anything north of 1.25, you're in great shape. There are lenders out there that will do 1 or sub 1, but you're going to get charged quite a bit amount more in interest for the risk of that loan. But this one's in really good conservative ground here. That's 1.4 with all of my conservative numbers. So the monthly payment, principal and interest is going to be about $900. When we refi and we cash out, we got about $20,000 that's left over. So we'll have $4,600 left in cash in that deal. So once we start looking at the cash on cash return for this, that's pretty phenomenal. I was hoping that I was going to be able to eke this out to break even, or to pull a little bit of cash out of this and actually get paid to purchase the property. But based on my conservative numbers, it's probably going to be a little bit of cash influx into this particular deal. And it's still a phenomenal cash on cash return. So as we're going through this a little bit, we just went through all the rent ranges. We're going to stick with $1,100. So we're being conservative. It's $2,100 a month, total gross projected income. And where do the expenses change a little bit? I changed those a little bit here because we now have landscaping services. The grass will need to get cut. The lot will need to get taken care of, and it's Cleveland, so it snows. So there's going to be that expense. So it's about $50 a month on average. They will not, obviously charge you $50 a month to go out there and plow if there's no snow. So those are per service calls, but it'll probably average out about $50 a month, conservatively, for landscaping and then snow removal in the winter. My maintenance and repairs, I lowered that to 3% because this is going to be freshly remodeled. There shouldn't be anything besides wear and tear. Property management was a little bit higher than I actually would have liked. I usually like to see them about 8%, but they were at 9%, and I couldn't negotiate anything further down. My CapEx, I lowered that as well, just because all of the major components that we would be concerned about with our capital expenditures, like your HVAC systems, your roof, etc., those are all basically getting redone, minus the roof, which had been done about 7 or 8 years ago. So the roof is in good condition, and we're putting in new HVAC units, new furnaces that were part of our rehab budget, and I was able to lower that. Vacancy factor is about 5%. That might be a little bit low. That I'm still kind of working with the property management company, because the area it's about 6 to 7%. But I had found some details that were countering that. So I just left it as a conservative 5%. So my total expenses are going to be about $1,400 a month. And we just went through the refinance. We had that over here on the left-hand side. I added in this additional cost. So our total out of pocket for this property is going to be about $5,000. I added this $1,100 because the property management companies charge 50% of the rent for getting a tenant in there. They actually do a percentile versus a flat fee. And it was 50% per unit of 1 month's rent. So that's going to be $1,100 between the 2 units. So looking at this on the right-hand side, my net operating income is about 18,000, just shy of $19,000 a year. We're going to be cash flowing about $650 plus a month from this property. And we are putting in at the end $5,000. So that's the cash on cash return is 155%. It's a huge, huge win for a cash on cash return. That is just going to get perpetually better. As the years go on, you're going to have your loan amount taken down. You're going to have appreciation for the area. It's just a really, really good deal for us. And I split these apart because I don't have property taxes and insurance on this one. I put it as basically year one because I've already paid that. It's already part of my $5,000 that I'm putting into this investment. But I did extrapolate it out for after. My cash flow reduces a little bit, but it goes down to about $440. But that is where I am paying property taxes and insurance on a monthly basis, or accounting for it on a monthly basis. So it does drop a little bit, but my cash on cash return is still phenomenal, because we only have that original $5,000 that's in there, and we're cash flowing still about $4,300 a year. So great property, great pickup. I will go into really quickly, and I'll leave like the last 10 minutes or so open for questions or comments or anything that you want to ask me. Is going into the comping. So the first thing that I on a creative deal, I had said this before, is ARV and comping it to see what the value is important. It is not the most important thing because you're looking at your cash flow. That is the reverse of a cash deal. A cash deal is all about where the value is. If you're need to bring in outside funding, and you don't have already something in place. So this is the first place that I will go when I'm looking at a property, is to get an idea after I've already gone through the rent rates and see what I can get for it. And just to back up for a second, MTR and pad split MTR was not an option here. This is not an area of Cleveland that you'd have a midterm renter in there. And a pad split is actually something that we're looking at, and I'm working with pad split to see if we might be able to convert this into a pad split. It's got plenty of parking. It is right near bus stops. And it's just that the long-term rental market there is so strong. I decided to initially take a look at this as just a long-term rental, but it would be very easy to convert this into a pad split with, it has 2 separate kitchens. It has 6 bedrooms by the time we're done with this, and possibly a 7th bedroom. This could be a cash cow as a pad split. But our timeline was a little bit tight for us to be able to do that. So we might look at that for 2025 or 2026 once we get the once we get renters in there, just because we have all of this in motion and we have such a short timeline. But let's spend a little bit of time for a few minutes on comping. So this is a duplex, and duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes are still considered, they're small multifamily, but they're actually technically still viewed from lender standpoints as that's why you can get a typical loan on it. You can get a conventional loan on it, is they're still considered single family. And so anything that is 4 units or less, it is a value-based approach versus an income-based approach, which you will see. You'll see quite often. Let me just.
If you're ready to listen, I want to see.
Okay, looks like they muted. So as I was saying, the income-based approach is for 5+. You're talking commercial at that point. Duplexes are still a value-based approach of just like single family, that we would consider single family, is it's based on comps. It's not based on the income that particular property is producing. So that's the difference between the two of those, is when you have an income-based approach, it's looking at what income to price is this property producing, versus this where it is the valuation based on comps of comparable properties. So even with duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes, I still try to stay along the same road. No difference than 250 square feet for the living space. A lot is 2,500 within the same lot square footage. The build year within 10 years, all of those same parameters that I've gone through before, I try to stay in the same lane. It's not always easy with duplexes or any small multifamily to stay within that, and you just try to do the best that you can with that particular property. So this property was literally right down the street. It had one less bedroom. It had one more bathroom, and it had a garage. It had an outbuilding garage, a detached garage. The square footage was I don't want to say it was considerably, but about 762 square feet is getting a little bit towards the end of where I like to see it, outside of that 250 range. But the problem was there was nothing sold that had been remodeled or had been updated in any way that was within a mile radius. So I started at half a mile, and then I go out in 0.25 mile increments, and I landed at about a mile out there that I had to take a look at it. So we can go into Privy really quick for 1 second. I feel Privy is probably the best at using for comping. That's just my personal opinion, but I think it's hands down the best thing to get your ARV and to comp properties. But coming in here, I didn't cross any major roads, so I cut my line over on Route 8 here. These are not major roads. This Union and 116th, they're wider roads, but they're not major roads. So I really had difficulty with finding something that had been remodeled within the past 6 months. So I start at 90 days or less, then I go to 180 days, and then I go out from there. If I have to go out beyond 6 months, I will usually, depending on the market trend, I will usually plus or minus 10%, just for the fact that we're going outside of a 6-month cycle and a 6-month window. So it's really best to stay 6 months or less. You can go out to a year. You can go out to beyond a year, but time travel is not as desirable to get accurate comps, and versus bending a little bit of your exact match for square footage and build year and stuff like that. So I did find some pretty good comparables. This one has me a little bit worried, to be honest with you, just because the size difference is so large. Luckily, it is on my side of the fence, is because we're considerable, or about 700 square feet larger in each unit. But I went in there and I tried to compare anything that was a 6.2 or as close as I could find to it. I didn't do the ARV based off of a 4.2 just because we have those additional bedrooms. And once we get that reclassed with the county, that will now be a 6.2. And that's a considerable difference and a jump from a 4.2 to a 6.2. So it was better that we would find comparables that had either the ideal match a number of bed bath count or that it was within one unit on either side. So I was able to find some pretty strong comps for 5.2s and 6.3s. I did account for the bathroom difference and for the bedroom difference. So on average, it's like I had said before, about 15,000 to put in a bathroom, a completely new bathroom. I know that people will say that it's 10 to 12,000, but I've never been quoted anything less than close to $15,000 for a complete bathroom, with, putting in redoing the piping and all of that stuff. The bedrooms is anywhere from 10 to 12,000. This particular area, I probably could have gone in there at about 10,000, but I erred on the side of caution that it would be about 12 grand to put in a complete bedroom add-on. So yeah, so that's where we came up with 153,000 for the ARV. And the interesting thing is the private money lender that we are going with, their underwriters came out with, they were within $70 of my amount of where I put the ARV. They actually had it at $70 higher. But we came to almost the exact number for ARV. So I thought that was pretty cool. It was just a different set of opinions and, completely different underwriters taking a look at this and coming up with the same valuation that I did. It was pretty cool to see. But yeah, and so on this, so the ARV, I hugged pretty close within a half a mile. I did go out to a mile for some of the other numbers with the fair market value to see what it was worth as a 4.2. Just in case that we didn't get it approved and it took forever to get it through the county or whatever. But I just wanted to know what the market value is as a technical 4.2. But I went in out here for the ARV. I went out no further than half a mile, and I think that we came up with some pretty good updated properties that had been remodeled, and I can take you through a couple of where the comparatives were. So this was comparatively updated. The bathroom in this one wasn't as great. They did some updating in the flooring, and this was a pretty high purchase price for the status it was. But they had a small remodel comparatively what we're going to end up doing with the kitchen, and the flooring probably could have been updated a little bit. It's not the best remodel that I've ever seen, but that was one of them. This was the property I think that was really nicely done. Yeah, this was a really nice flip. This was a remodel that is probably a little bit above and beyond what we're going to end up doing in there. Like we're updating the flooring, we're redoing the cabinets that are existing. We're putting in new countertops and sinks and updating the bathrooms and that nature, but this was a really nice remodel. So I could see where this was commanding 160,000. But we'll be close to it. It was a little bit smaller. It was 2553, but they did a really nice job. This was a really nice flip, and it was on par with where we're getting remodeled. We're not remodeling ours to this extent for the purposes of turning it into a rental. There's really just no need. But that was a nice property there. And then this one was decent. This is probably more on the line where we're remodeling. And being exactly there. And like this one was 2,300 square feet. It's a little bit outside of my parameters. It has one less bedroom. So I'm really confident with our number that we're going to get that for when we go to refinance. But that's what I'm basically looking for when I'm in there and I'm looking at all of those properties in Privy. I'm the first thing I'm looking at is making sure the square footage, and I'm get close to that 250 magic number as I can. I'm also looking at the build generation. I'm looking at the last day sold, and then I'm going into the property and hopefully getting pictures of what level of remodel they have done on it. So that's a little bit of a challenge. And then you can see some of those pictures that I had just showed you. Some of them were better remodels than others. But it's really kind of subjective as to what you choose for your comps and your ARV. But you get better and better at choosing the right ones as you go in there and you actually comp and get muscle memory and start to do it. But that's basically what I'm doing is I'm just looking at anything that is within that square footage. I like to see this particular property was not a flip. But in Privy, that's what it looks like when there is a flip, that it was going from one to another. I don't know exactly why this one was put in there like that, but that's an indicator to me when I'm using Privy that the project had been under remodel and they had flipped it. More than likely flipped it. But those are the major factors that I'm looking for. Is I'm looking to stay. I start at half a mile. I go out to a mile. You can technically go out to 2 miles, but I typically don't. I try to stay in that neighborhood, within that block, as best I can. And I'm also looking at the square footage. And then once I see something that's been flipped like that, I'll go in it and see, hey, what has been done in here? What level of rehab was done? Is this the bellwether for the neighborhood? Because that's really what you're looking for with the ARV, is you're looking for the highest and best that is out there right now in that particular neighborhood. And obviously, as you can see with this particular area, you don't have a lot of high-end flips, right? You just have basically people doing burrs and remodeling severely rundown homes and just basically getting them to an investor level status where they have a renter in there that was happy with some fresh updating, and it's not to the nines. So that is our deal. And I'm really optimistic about this one. Cleveland, as I was saying, is a market that I want to break into, and I want to buy heavily in there. We have been looking in there heavily. It's a great market, and our cash on cash returns for what we're going to end up putting into this are phenomenal. The net cash flow, I would like that to be a little bit higher, to be honest with you. But for the first year at least, $650 a month positive cash flow is phenomenal, especially in today's market, where it's really tough to cash flow long-term rentals. So this one to me was was a home run. We smashed it out of the park with this one, and yeah, we're looking forward to doing more deals. I now have a great contractor in the Cleveland area that we're going to work on several other projects. And once you have that kind of in-house built-in arm or extension of yourself, that the sky's the limit of how many of these you can do. So that's what we're kind of looking at. And as my relationship, or our relationship, builds with this private money lender, if they're going to finance 100% of all of our entry, all of the initial purchase price, plus 100% of the rehab, once we establish that relationship, that the returns on that are infinite. I mean, they truly are, because we're coming in out of pocket for zero on all of these projects that are going forward. So I'm really looking forward to building our relationship and moving on there with them from that. So I enjoyed definitely going through this with everybody. This is a great property for us. But I'll open it up to see if anybody has any questions, or anybody have a question they want to ask for the last couple of minutes. No, we got everybody quiet.
Hey, how you doing? This is Corey Carroll here in Houston, Texas, man.
Cool.
Thank you for coming on and teaching us your underwriting and showing us your deal. I was wondering, I came on a little bit late. You might have said it, and I had a lot of kids running in the background as well. So I didn't know if you mentioned it or not, but I was wondering, are you strictly like residential home investor, or do you invest in land or anything like that? Or
Yeah, great question. Yeah, right now we are. My specialty on the team is underwriting, and my underwriting is for small multifamilies and single family. So anything 4 units or less, and then obviously single family. But we haven't ventured into land. We haven't ventured into larger multifamily quite yet. But eventually we'll get there. But to answer your question, we're just single family and up to 4 unit.
okay, got you. And as far as the Wednesday calls, will they just be strictly for underwriting, or
Yep.
you're going to cover
Yep.
other topics?
Yep. So the focus of this, we are looking within the team to expand that potentially for other parts of any real estate business. But these Wednesday night meetings will be for underwriting. I'm going to go through case studies of things that we have purchased, things that we have not purchased. But I had told last week when we had done, no, 2 weeks ago when we had our initial one, I'm completely open. If people would like to potentially bring a deal eventually and we underwrite it live to go through it, I'm completely open to that, open to feedback and suggestions. But the focus of this will be underwriting strictly.
Okay, cool. Great. Thank you, sir. Happy
Of course,
holidays.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Mohammed, I know you got a question.
Not really. I was just taking a look through the other deal I bought up last time because I have my underwriting exam on the 8th.
With Bo?
Kind
Nice.
of nervous, but I just kind
You'll
of
be
seem to get a hold of the terminology and stuff. It's just so much in there.
Yeah, so I understand. So I haven't actually gone through to get my certification with Bo because when I was working with him initially, you had to take the single family and the multifamily. So I understand
Oh,
that they have recently
yeah,
changed
he
that.
changed that.
That
Yeah.
you can specifically go in there and say, hey, I just want to do single family or I just want to do multifamily. So I got to go around and get to that. I got to get to my certification with Bo. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, it's a lot. Now he did a writing one, written one, so it's grades automatically, and then
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that was automatic. No, someone in his team graded it. But now I have the live underwriting, and it's just like I'm kind of nervous.
Are they still making you do it on the actual Zoom in front of everybody, or is it
Yeah, he
just
is.
where it's just you
He
or
gets a
Bo?
class together and has everyone like just ask questions and all that stuff.
Nice, nice.
I don't know. So I don't know if I should bring up the same deal and we can look through it together, or you want to do that next time.
Yeah. So refresh my memory of what the deal was that you had.
It was a pad split that someone brought up to me. F5. Let me see, pull it up.
While he's looking for that, who is the this guy you're talking about, Bo?
Bo,
Oh,
he's the sub two underwriting like go-to person. He's the one who teaches underwriting for Pace and his team.
Oh, okay, I got you.
yeah.
So
And
if you
he's
look up
very
Bo
heavily
sub two,
focused
you'll
on
find him.
very focused on multifamily. Single family and small multifamily is kind of um, I don't want to say like a step down for him, but it kind of is. He really focuses on large multifamily deals that's where his expertise is because it's more complicated, right? It's a lot more complicated. There's a lot more moving parts that go into a multifamily property and things you have to look at. And it's it is what it is, but it's very, very multi-family oriented with Bo.
So does that mean you're gonna get a single family and small multifamily certification going yourself?
Yeah, I'm eventually going to do it. Yeah, I definitely need to do it.
That'll be great.
It's just,
It's a lot of
yeah.
people's bottleneck.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I love it. I love doing it for the team. I like to say that I feel like I've gotten pretty damn good at it. And I just love it. I love the numbers. Like I'm the numbers guy on the team, and it's just my wheelhouse. But anyway, Mohammed, what was the
Well,
deal?
it was
So
a
it was a
pad split in
pad split?
Richmond. Pad split in Richmond. It's a 5-2. They're looking to turn it into a 7-3. So like my question was more just like I can't find any comps for like to find the value of a 7-3 home in the area because all the homes in there are just
So
5-2,
you're talking about the
5-3
comps for the value of like for a loan or something like that, correct?
for a loan or something after they fix it to
Yeah.
7-3 because there's no
Yeah.
7-3s in
So
the area.
that is one stipulation with a pad split is there are lenders out there now that will loan and utilize market rates for pad split. I know that we have a couple in our repertoire that will. But when you're talking about getting valuation for a loan, if it's just a traditional DSCR, they're going to walk into that property if it's already rehabbed from a 5 to a 7 and be what the hell is this? Like you've got what used to be a dining area is now a bedroom. Like what is this?
Yeah,
You're
that's kind of
typically not going to get the valuation for comping except for what it originally was. So that would be my suggestion is when you're underwriting it and you're comping it for see what the ARV is or the fair market value is stick to what it was because they are
it was.
unless you have the ability where you can add that bedroom and it could be permanent. That's a different story.
I don't
Um,
think that's possible.
yeah, so if it's just like where you're converting, like say the dining area or like something that was a study or whatever, or a small closet or I don't know, you need to comp it and get your ARV based off of what it originally was and what it is like basically in the tax records as a 5-3. You're not going to get a lender that is going to come in and say that, hey, you put in 2 more bedrooms. So we're comparing you to 7 bedroom houses because you haven't physically put a
Oh,
fixed bedroom in there. Do you know what I'm saying?
so they come in based on the value of like what the house is at right now,
Correct. That is
not
absolutely correct.
not
That
what.
will be, it will
Yeah.
not be what it is. We're turning it into a 7.3 or 7.2, whatever it's going to end up being. It's going to go off of the
That was one
value
of my main
of
points
the
to her
original.
too.
Because when you're putting in pad split, you're basically putting in like floating walls, right? So you can tear that
Yeah,
shit down and take it out really fast if you need to put the
yeah.
property on market, right? And like I said, the caveat to that is if you legitimately can add a bedroom that is part of the house, fixed walls, it's like an addition to the house. That's a different story. That's where you can start looking for bedroom to bedroom comps. But for that particular property to get your value and get your ARV, you need to stick to the 5.3 and
5-2.
use your
Yeah.
numbers from that.
What were we saying? There's lenders that look at the pad split revenue when they're getting into
There
it.
is. Yeah, there is. There's a couple of guys out of they're either North South Carolina. It's one of the two of them. I can send you because I have your email. You asked me about the
About
calculator.
the calendar, yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna use
I
that
can I can
calendar for
find
the same
his
thing now.
name and I can pass it forward to you so that you can give him a call and have a conversation with him. But yeah, there are a couple of DSCR lenders that are this guy particularly is a pad split investor himself um, that will loan on the revenue for the DSCR ratio based off of pad split and not necessarily a long-term rental, or you can get a lot of them these days doing short-term rental revenue. But typically the DSCR lenders are going to be looking at what market rent rates are if you don't have leases in place,
Mm.
etc. But
Yeah, I
that
might have
will
to take
be
a look at the house then.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll definitely send that over to you and
Yeah,
give you his
sure.
name so you can have a conversation with him. The value is the same thing. He told me the same exact thing that I've found out from every other single, um, you know, traditional lender or DSCR lender is you want to make sure that when you're doing the pad split that you get the loan in place before you start the construction on the walls and things of that nature to enclose those bedrooms. Because just like I said, the most lenders when they send out their appraisers and they're not familiar with pad split, they're going to walk in and be like, what the fuck is this? Like, why is there a bedroom in the middle of the living room? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and so it's best to do that prior to that going through, just so it doesn't cause any hiccups with the appraisal when you go to get that loan.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm gonna take a second look at this right now. I'll get back to you if I need to.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want me to find his number and shoot it over to you
Uh,
so you can have a conversation with him?
I usually connect with lenders on Facebook though. So if you have
Okay.
his name, that'll
He might have a
probably be.
Facebook. I don't know. I have his cell and I have his email. But
Oh, okay.
I could
That's
see if
fine.
I can take a quick look. He might. He definitely might have a
Yeah.
Facebook account.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's fine.
But yeah, I'll look that up and I'll see if I can send it over to you. At least you have it in your back pocket
Yep.
to be able to go there. But
All right.
all right, guys. Well, it was a good
I think
Zoom. I
Emmanuel has
enjoyed
a
going through that.
question. Yeah,
What's
there's
that?
another question. There's a
Oh yeah.
question waiting.
Oh, Emmanuel. Sorry, buddy. I missed that.
No, no worries, brother. Happy New Year's.
Happy New
Uh,
Year.
yeah. So yeah, my name is Emmanuel. I'm only like I'm a young dude. I'm like really young in the game. I just wanted to know how long does it take to get really good at underwriting, and how can I take the underwriting course and get a certification?
Yeah, great questions. First is, are you in sub two by chance?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I
Okay.
am.
Yeah. So if you go into sub two, go into Kajabi, and then under the section where they have Bose underwriting,
Mhm.
uh, you can go into there. You can take the course. There's like like pre-filmed things, kind of like the sub two initial courses, and then on one of the tabs that's within there, you can take that and register to get certified with Bo. Um, and I think it's like what Mohammed, it's like $250, something like that.
Total for certain examination and everything should be about 250.
Yeah. So
But
250 bucks.
you might have to reach out to support because not everyone comes with actual videos with it.
What
Okay.
do you mean?
Sure how I got into it, but I think someone else recommended it to me, so I had to reach out to support like, hey, I want to do this, you know.
To have access to it. Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
they had to
Okay.
fix it because
Yeah.
I believe that those courses are for everybody in sub two. So it should automatically be loaded in there. But Emmanuel, if you have if you go in there and you go through Kajabi and you can't find it, just let me know and I'll help you walk through it and show you where it is.
Okay.
Um,
Is there any way I could find your or get your contact information? Any way I could contact you?
yeah. My contact, can you see it up here in my top left? It's got my personal stuff on there. I haven't updated it with my business, but that's all my contact information up here. My cell phone is down at the bottom, but yeah, feel free to reach out to me. That's my personal email. More than happy to talk with you and help you out. And to answer your first question, with how long does it take? I honestly, I think it really takes about 6 to 8 months of really doing a lot of reps in order to get really proficient at underwriting. And that's where you're underwriting, you know, probably 10, 12 properties a day, and just getting those reps in, even if it's not for a deal that you're involved in whatsoever, is just getting those reps in to understand where where your strong suits are, and if you're coming up with the correct numbers. A really good hack is go on Keegly and look at some properties in your area or wherever you might be investing or wherever you're comfortable with. Go into Keegly and look at what they are putting the property on the market for with the ARV, and then match it up to what you're coming out with in numbers. And if they're pretty damn close, you're starting to get good. It's in my opinion, I've taken information from Bo, I've taken information from Jamil, I've taken information from Brett Daniels, a lot of the great like underwriters and people that know what they're doing. So I've kind of pulled them all together and kind of put them into my quiver. But Jamil, in my opinion, is probably one of the best single family underwriters out there. He really is. In that sense, is I guess I should back up that statement. Is his comping is probably the best that's out there. I don't know how his underwriting is because underwriting encompasses a lot more, right? As you saw me go through that, it encompasses, figuring out what your rent rates are and like all of the figures that go into it, all of your expenses and things of that. That really is comprehensively what underwriting is. But Jamil is probably the best comper out there that I have come across. And what I did in the beginning is I would go in there and I would go into Keegley and then I would underwrite the property and I would, I would do my comps, I'd get my ARV, I'd get my fair market value, and I would compare it to what they were putting it on the market for. And once I started getting pretty damn close to that, knowing that there's a little bit of a markup, right, that they have is basically a wholesale fee. But getting into that where they had their ARVs, which are displayed on there, really helped me. And that's where I started realizing I'm getting good. Is I'm coming up with numbers that are almost right where they're at for ARV.
Okay. Okay. I like that. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, like I said, please reach out if there's something you might need some help with, or you want to ask me some questions. I'm always open. I'm more than happy to help out, and you can reach out to me anytime.
Do you have like a scheduling thing, like a schedule or like a calendarly, something like that?
I do have a Calendly. I haven't updated in a while.
Okay. Okay.
I haven't updated in a while. So, Emmanuel, what I'll do is once you ping me, send me your email me or text me and give me your information. I'll update my Calendly and I'll get it over to you so that you can carve some time with me and it's actually accurate. Of
Thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much.
course,
It's one of my biggest things for 2025. I just want
learn
to
to
be really
underwrite.
good at underwriting.
Yeah,
I mean,
underwriting is one of the most sought after skills in real estate investing out there. It really is. Without a good underwriter, you're kind of stuck with any angle that you're coming into it with. Whether you're a wholesaler, whether you're a buyer, whether you're a lender like a Gator or a private money lender, if you're a fix and flipper, underwriting is paramount to the whole thing. It's the nucleus.
yep, 100%.
But all right, I don't see any other questions. Thanks, Mohammed, for making sure that I got to Emmanuel. But all right, so we'll see you guys next week, and thank you guys for coming to the Zoom.
Yes, sir. Thank you
Have a
so
great,
much.
yeah, have a great night, everybody.
Thanks, James. Thank you.
Thank you.